Hi there. So now that you have developed sketches and we've talked about it and you've defined a direction, we are going to go ahead and start. And so one of the things you need to start is to know what size your project is. So if you come back into your project statement, you're going to see that you have a project that is 8.5 by 11 and you're only using black, white, and gray. So we're going to go ahead and open Illustrator up. We're going to go to File. I know you can't see File, but it's up there, down to New. And we happen to already have 11 by 8.5 already defined. So if you're doing a vertical, obviously you'll click here and it'll switch places, but we're going to do a horizontal. We're going to hit Create. Once we've hit create, we're going to go ahead and start defining what we're labeling. So I'm going to be doing typography and make it look like it's on the stage and it's got stage lighting. And so we're going to say type taking center stage. And we'll even put an exclamation point. Now we can do a couple of things. We can click here and hold down Shift, and that will constrain our type to what we need. Or we could, and again, make sure that you're holding down Shift because we're distorting it anyway. And if you do distorted type, I'll know it, and it's kind of a problem. And so we can also come up here and we can do 72 point. This type is not quite large enough. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit return and I'm just going to do typography and taking center stage. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to make typography larger. Now before I do that, I'm going to define my font. And I'm going to choose to do a sans serif. Sans serifs are visually more interesting. And I'm going to choose to do Baskerville, which is a pretty classic sans serif. So I'm going to come down here, and I know it's very hard sometimes to find what you're looking for. So here's Baskerville. And so once I've decided Baskerville, then I can actually increase this. And I can do it here as well, and you can see that it's slowly doing it. And one of the things that I'm going to do is I'm going to choose to have typography separated. These aren't going to be two things. And the reason why is going to become clear in a little bit. So we'll go ahead and have typography. And we're going to do a lot of labeling down here and then make typography maybe become our visual. And actually, I don't really like having typography, so I'm going to make this type. And I'm going to make it really large. All right, and again, we're going to do a lot of our labeling down here, and we're going to just have type kind of be the character on the stage, and that's going to make sense as we continue through. So I'm going to come back to layers, and I'm going to lock those. I choose, and I encourage you to do this as well, sorry, I'm just going to put some of these things in here so we get more space. I'm going to choose to use my layer palettes to my fullest, not because I don't know how to use them, but because you might be new to Illustrator and having something locked means that I can't move it or change it accidentally. And so until you build some confidence, I would encourage you to do that. So we're going to go ahead and add another layer. This is another layer. And we're going to add it underneath. The reason why we're going to do that, and we are going to label some of this, but just a little bit up here. We're gonna label baseline, mean line, cap height, and X height up here, and then we're going to take care of all the rest of the labels down here. So the first thing that I want to do is go ahead and give myself line work for those things. And so we're going to pull a line. There is a couple of things you should know. So if I go to rulers down to show rulers, I could actually go ahead and give myself some guidelines so I know where to start those. Sometimes I don't find them super helpful because they hide what I'm trying to draw. So we're going to go ahead and put those in place so you can see what they look like. And then I'm going to go ahead and draw my first line. And you can see that they're right where we need it to be. And my fill is the center of a shape, and I don't have any outline, so we're going to flip that. Now the other thing that we're going to do is we are going to define color, and I'm going to make this a nice kind of middle gray, and you can see that I can't see it, so I'm going to go ahead and clear those guides now that we're at this point. So I have that nice middle gray. Everything's looking like they're lining right up on it, but I like to zoom in and make sure. Now this is a pretty heavy stroke. I usually make diagrams. I actually use most of my line work would be at a 0.5. So we're going to go ahead and add my 0.5. And we're going to hold down Option. And we're going to drag that up. Now let's start back. I went a little too fast. So I'm going to click that. If I hold down Option, that's going to allow me to double it. Notice as I hold down Option, I get two little arrows. And if I hold down Option, it's allowing me to copy that. Now if I hold down Shift, it won't shift around, and it will be on the exact same vertical axis. So we're going to go ahead and do that for these guys. And I'm actually going to take it down here and add these as well. Now I am going to have to elongate these because they were a little bit shorter. And I'm going to do that for a real specific reason I'm going to talk about in just 1 minute after I get this lined up. I'm going to go ahead and copy that, and that K is going to be a really great indicator. I'm going to copy it one more time for the T. Now you'll notice that A hangs over. You'll notice that sometimes your lowercase ascenders are moving higher, that N is moving, that G is moving above. And that's because if these letters were actually intended exactly the height of that, they would feel smaller. And the reason why is because they have these rounded soft curves. That doesn't always happen, but in a font that has thicks and thins like a serif has, and lots of rounding and soft edges, you'll see it. Actually, you'll see it in most fonts. So we have those lined. I'm going to go ahead and choose to lock there. And so now I can't mess with those. So we're going to go ahead and indicate mean line. So I'm going to come down here to this and type in, actually we're going to do baseline first. Baseline. Now you notice that it's large. That's because it came in at a size of font that we were using. Now I encourage you to do a sans serif, and I usually choose Arial for all my demos because they're very close to the top. And I'm also going to make it bold because it's going to give it a little bit more weight, and it'll allow us to make it a little bit smaller. So I'm going to go ahead and make it 9 point. Because we want these labels to be there, but we don't want them to be too important. So I'm going to do baseline. I'm going to do mean line. And I'm actually going to copy that type, and I haven't been talking about it, but you notice that I'm duplicating it. I'm duplicating it because That way I know that I'm exactly the same font, exactly the same height, cap height. Oops. Now, I want all of these to be aligned on this right side. So I'm going to come up here and do alignment and click on that. Oops, click right there. And then I'll bump it out so that we get a little bit of that line indicated. Now I do need to actually come up here and unlock these, because the other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to have my line pointing to these. So I'm going to come back in my stroke and I'm going to click arrowhead, and that'll give us a nice arrowhead to kind of indicate that that's what this means. So I'm going to make it 50% because we don't really want it to be too heavy, and I want it to be kind of centered, so I'm going to drop it down a little bit. We're going to do that here. Same one, 50%. You could experiment with these, but I really like nice tiny arrowheads on my work. That doesn't mean that if you get a bigger arrowhead, as long as it feels proportionate, you're fine. You don't have to follow along with my preferences. Oops, and that one did not change. So we have all of those. Now, one of the things that I'm going to do is mean line is often a dash line, just so that it is a little bit different. So I'm going to come over here and click dash, and I'm going to make 3, 3. It usually is set to 12, 12, but I consider 12 to feel really heavy. So I'm going to set this to 3, 3. And I'm going to go ahead, and I'm not going to worry about setting those arrowheads down here, but I am going to do the dash line down here. And so if I click on it, it should, oh, still giving me a 12. All right. So now we have that taken care of. We can start moving forward with labeling that, but I'm going to wait for that for the next demo. One of the things I would like to see you do at this point is go ahead and start getting things in place. I'm actually, before I finish this, I'm going to take a moment to recenter this, because these labels kind of have things feeling off, and I'm going to lower it a little bit. And then I'm going to go ahead and look. I'm going to go ahead and save as, because this is a first document, and I'm going to say demo P1. I'm going to save it to my desktop. And we'll pick up again on the next video where we left off. Thanks, bye.